My F27 fiancé's M31 uncle, M58, is spreading a rumor about our relationship to try to convince people not to support our marriage. And I am at a loss. My fiancé, M31 / and I, F27 / have been together for 7 years and could really use some advice about this situation with his uncle, M58 / Background: we haven't had the easiest time with his family. His mother, F58 / is one of those moms that truly wouldn't like anyone fiancé was dating and tried to run me off starting when we'd only been together a few months. She also wasn't a great mom to fiancé, stole about $2,000 from him, neglected him as a child to the point relatives called Child Protective Services, even ran off and disappeared for a couple of weeks, and his dad, M60 / is a classic enabler who really doesn't want to rock the boat with his wife and will do anything he can to make sure she's happy. As a result of his mother's continued antics, he went no contact with his parents for a couple of years, then was guilted into being in contact again around the time we got engaged, 3 years ago. This is important later, but it went so poorly that he's back to no contact with them. We were supposed to get married in 2020, but with COVID we postponed to 2021 and decided to downsize to a micro wedding to try to be able to keep a date, and frankly, it's all the venue was comfortable planning for. And we had contracts we were trying to keep. Everyone on my side of the family was understanding and frankly relieved, whereas most people on his side of the family were, well, the opposite. Now, this uncle is claiming that my fiancé actually proposed to me 5 years ago and I said no and humiliated him. And that my fiancé posted about it on Facebook and then deleted it. I have no idea what he's talking about and neither does my fiancé. And I'm pretty sure we would both remember a proposal that we were both supposedly part of. This uncle is telling every family member who will listen that I did this and humiliated my fiancé and I'm obviously a terrible person and that they should all band together to fight against our marriage. When my fiancé confronted him, and asked him what all this was about because it wasn't true, the uncle insisted it was and told my fiancé to stop lying to protect me and that he and his kids saw the post and know the truth. I went to school with his kids, so I asked them myself if they knew what he was talking about and where this might be coming from. They have no idea what their dad is talking about. Uncle has been spending a lot of time with my fiancé's parents lately and this truly reeks of something his mother would do. We really don't know how to navigate this from here. Fiancé has been trying to maintain relationships with the rest of his family, outside of his parents, and this is making him feel like he just needs to cut all ties. I feel devastated for him and feel like if I do anything it will make things worse. Do we try to correct this with an email to his family? Do we contact them one-on-one? Do we ignore it? Do we cut all ties like fiancé is leaning toward? Too long didn't read. Uncle, M58 / is spreading a rumor, that has no basis in reality, about my, F27 / and my fiancé's, M31 / relationship, as evidence that I'm a bad person and the family should not support our relationship. What do we do? It sounds to me like your fiancé's mom cooked up this story and your uncle believed it. For some reason, in dysfunctional families everyone believes the lies of the least reliable, most toxic member. The longer their history of lying, the more everyone else believes them. No, it doesn't make any sense. Your fiancé could send an email to everyone saying uncle is lying, but that's about all you can do. Obviously this will help you decide which relatives are invited to the wedding. I kind of think that's what happened too, but what doesn't make sense to me is why uncle wouldn't just outright say that, and instead is insisting that he saw it on Facebook and is throwing his kids in as other witnesses. The kids don't even know what he's talking about and say they have no idea where he would have gotten it from. I just find it all super weird and toxic, and find it interesting that this lie is coming up for the first time now, rather than when we got engaged 3 years ago. Or really any time since then. Don't give any further fuel to the crazy the uncle is spewing. Anyone who knows you, knows it's a lie. Let the crazy train roll on with him and anyone who believes him. You don't want anyone at your service who is not supportive, and that includes your fiancé's kin. Have a great wedding! Honestly, cutting ties with toxic people whether or not their blood is the kindest thing you and your fiancé can do for yourselves. There's so much less stress and drama. Your fiancé will have your family, and you'll have your friends and each other. It is genuinely enough. Is it at all possible the uncle has some early form of dementia? I don't know these people obviously, and it could be a story for the mill, but the behavior from the uncle is really bizarre, and not knowing anything else is what I would consider. Honestly don't know. Maybe this situation is so bizarre, so I'm not sure if there's a neurological component or if it's a continuation of the toxic behavior that runs rampant in his family. I absolutely agree with cutting all ties. I, 23F, got assaulted by my ex 25M, and my boyfriend 31M isn't taking it seriously. To make a long story short, on my way home from my boyfriend's place my ex saw me and decided he was going to follow me home. He is homeless and a drug at the moment. He would leave me alone, and at some point on the bus ride he was screaming at me and pushed me in the forehead. The bus driver was no help and only one of the passengers tried to help me. I was taken to hospital and diagnosed with a concussion. On Thursday they released him from custody. He's still being charged but no longer held. This has been causing a lot of excess stress. My life has changed because of the situation, and I feel embarrassed, humiliated and vulnerable. When I told my boyfriend about the situation, he thought I was being dramatic about my injuries and that they weren't so bad, and that I was a pussy for not wanting to take the bus again. I'm trying to convince him that I'm in danger and that I have to take precautions. I can't travel alone anymore. It's a 4-hour commute to his place. A lot can happen. Bus stops are also where my ex begs, and Ubers are too expensive. He doesn't want to pick me up and take me to his place. Too long didn't read. I don't know how to help my boyfriend realize that I'm not safe and that I need him to step things up so that I can be safe. Edit. The bus ride to his place is a 4-hour commute. Driving you can get there in 45 minutes to an hour. He just told me yesterday that the reason he doesn't want to commute is that his mother is really sick and he doesn't want to be far from home. I was also punched in the head, not pushed. It shows a lack of respect for you, that he cares so little for your safety. So you have to protect yourself. Don't take the bus to your boyfriend's house anymore. Make him take the 4-hour trip to see you. If he complains or refuses, then you will know how little he valued your efforts. Also, if he refuses, turn his words back on him. Don't be such a PC. Smile. Seriously though, you cannot make your boyfriend understand the danger you are in, because he has purposely chosen not to believe you. This is a deliberate decision on his part. His convenience to have you come to his house is more important to him than your safety. I'm going to say that again. His convenience is more important to him than the possibility that you could be bodily harmed. If it was me, learning that about my boyfriend, I might take a couple of days to think hard and consider whether this is a person I want to continue giving my time and effort to. I wish you good luck. It doesn't sound like he cares about you very much. Sounds like he's just not interested in a relationship like that. Personally, I think it is a huge red flag. I would have trouble treating people I don't like how heartlessly he treated you. Honestly, your choices are accept him being like that or reassess the relationship in total and think if this is someone you wanna trust yourself with long term. Time to get a new boyfriend. I'm afraid, this one ain't it. Anyone who would call you a pussy for being scared of being assaulted by your ex again after he's already assaulted you once needs to be removed from your life post haste. The fact that he said you were overreacting after your ex gave you a concussion is unbelievable. On the plus side, if you dump him then you'll no longer have to make the 4-hour bus trip to his place, so you'll be safer. You are right. Listen to your instincts and do not do long commutes like that when your psycho ex is on the loose. Talk to the police about your options and keep family and friends in the loop. As for your boyfriend, grown men shouldn't need help to realize that you being physically assaulted is a serious matter. There is something wrong with your BF. He sounds incredibly selfish, insensitive, immature and just not interested in your well-being. Treats you like a call girl. Classic example of losers who date younger women because no one their own age will put up with their BS. Nightmare situation, me 35F with partner 40M. my son and his nephew, 15 ms. Edit, thank you all so much for your support, advice and kind words. Your comments have given me a lot to think about, and I will be making contact with a family lawyer shortly. 4 years ago I met Bob, 40M. Bob had recently become the guardian of his nephew Ben after the death of Ben's parents in a car accident. Ben is the same age as my son Jason, 11 at the time, now 15. At first it seemed perfect. I was over the moon at finding a man who was not put off by the prospect of taking on a soon-to-be teenage stepson. Jason's father is not in the picture, and in spite of being very different personalities, the boys got along from the beginning, so Bob and Ben moved into my house within less than a year. Ben was always a quieter, more creative kid where Jason is more athletic and boisterous, and from the start I got the sense that Bob understood Jason's way of being more than he did Ben's. At first he would take them both to sports games, but Ben obviously had no interest and so pretty soon he just took Jason. At the time it seemed like a natural choice. Ben was bored at the games and Jason honestly reveled in having all Bob's attention, but after that things started unraveling. As they grew older the difference in the boys became more obvious, their choices of clothing, hairstyle, friends, music, hobbies, etc. And so did Bob's preference. He started making little comments comparing them and encouraging Ben to be more like Jason. At first it seemed like he was trying to be helpful, thinking that Jason's way of being was healthier, he's more outgoing, has a more active social life, etc., because that's what he remembered from his own experience, but after a while there was clear snidness there which it was impossible not to hear. My son has always had a strong protective streak/sense of fairness, and in spite of their differences and the late age they were introduced, he and Ben are very close, so Jason's reaction to Bob's remarks favoring him was to take Ben's side. He stopped going to games with Bob and generally liking him, and for a while became openly hostile on Ben's behalf. That stopped once he and Bob had a major argument. Jason backed down at that point because, he told me, he realized that if he kept making himself unpleasant, Bob and I might break up, in which case Ben would have to leave too. Since then, with a few exceptions, he has been coldly civil. Meanwhile, Bob has come to believe Ben is gay based on what I consider spurious evidence, not that it matters to me whether he is or not. He wanted to send him to a military-type reform school, and when I vetoed that, his behavior towards Ben has escalated to a subtle kind of downright nastiness. Needless to say, all of the above strained Bob's and my relationship to breaking point and then broke it. Seeing his ongoing behavior towards a child who needs him, I can no longer look at him with anything but disgust. The thought of him touching me makes my skin crawl and I desperately want him out of my house. We're not married and it's still in my sole name, thank God. But now I have the same problem Jason was worried about. If I end the relationship and kick Bob out, Ben will have to go too, since legally I have no tie to him whatever. He's 15 now and although he has borne everything by stoically ignoring Bob, I can't in good conscience let that man be solely responsible for him. For what it's worth, I have always tried to stick up for him and get Bob to see that there are many types of boy in the world and all of them are equally okay. Not to mention, I don't think Jason would ever forgive me if I did. I would happily take guardianship of Ben if I could. Even if Bob made no financial contribution at all, we could manage if we cut back on luxuries. My concern is that I am far from sure Bob would agree. However he personally feels about Ben is still his flesh and blood and Bob feels strongly about that. To be honest, I think it's part of the reason he resents Ben so much. Ben is the last of the line and not turning out how Bob thinks his family should be represented. If I were to start a conversation along those lines and Bob refused to allow Ben to stay, it would be incredibly difficult to roll back. The idea of having to continue to play his supportive wife to stop him leaving of his own accord for another 2.5 years, till Ben turns 18, sounds like a nightmare. But the alternative is worse. What is the best way to manage and get through this? Too long didn't read. Partner has shown himself to be abusive and homophobic towards his nephew. I want to leave him, but if I do he will likely take his nephew with him. What do I do?